Hi, everyone. Dr. Westman here. Thanks for chiming in and letting me know where you're watching from. Fantastic. I'll wait just a minute for folks to get on. I'm here every Wednesday through the holidays. So we'll talk about various themes. Tonight will be a how to get through the holidays, how to navigate the holidays. And then the next 3 Wednesday nights will be a keto workshop. So if you need retooling or you're wanting to get started for the new year, new resolution, New Year's, we'll get you ready for that. So I'll be here. So thanks for sharing your Wednesday night with us, all of us, and great to see people from all over. And, I just want to say, a few words about the clinic. I'm working at Duke University, and it's really gratifying job. This week or last couple of weeks, I've had people coming in with just astounding results, and results meaning not only weight loss and diabetes getting better, but things like arthritis, pain going away, 100% heartburn is gone. It's just a great experience to be able to help people in this way in the clinic. Now, for those of you who can't come to the clinic, we have other resources for you, including videos like this and other videos at Adapt Your Life YouTube channel. Adapt Your Life YouTube channel, adaptyourlife.com. But so I had a nice surprise recently when I knew the name of the person, seeing this person for a while, and the wheelchair was outside of the door of the room. And I thought to myself that she always has come to the clinic in a wheelchair. So yes, I've tell the story of people going from wheelchairs to walkers to canes, and then without anything. And sure enough, she had gone from the hallway inside without the wheelchair, which had never happened before. It was always one of these, difficult to negotiate, get in and out of the room sort of thing. So that's always really fun to see. Of course, she was thrilled with and had over 100 pounds of weight lost and no exercise. I mean, she was in a wheelchair without the ability to exercise. So anyway, that's the kind of day I have. And this week I have a visiting doctor who's in training, a resident doctor from the town of Wake Forest, which is just a few miles from Durham. And boy, the new crop of doctors that are coming down the road are super smart, super intelligent, and learning about ketones and ketosis and how you can use lifestyle instead of medications. And anyway, I'm thrilled to be able to share this information with other doctors who come to my office. And then also got a holiday wish from a doctor that I helped to train who's in Minnesota. And he texted me, the last 3 patients from yesterday, down 115 pounds, down 134 pounds, and down 116 pounds. All BMIs are under 30, which means they don't have obesity anymore, and reversed insulin resistance. Joy, joy, joy was the text from another doctor who I got to know and help train, again, who's in a thrilling practice to help people get better and prevent illness from occurring. That's still what I do 4 days a week at Duke. So what about the holidays? How to navigate the holidays? So, I've been following a low-carb keto lifestyle since 1999, which was the year we started our first study that was published in 2002. And the way I got into this wasn't any personal huge weight loss story. Sorry, I don't have that drama. Other doctors do. But I was curious. There were 2 patients who did this diet in front of me in my clinic, and it worked. And I was just, one thing led to another, met doctors who were doing this, published papers with those doctors' results, and then did our own research at Duke. And now going into the 20-something holiday season, I still struggle. I mean, a little bit. So if you're a carb addict, or even if you just grew up with carbs, you don't want to call yourself a carb addict. This is the time of year when carbs come out of the woodwork. I mean, you can't go to the grocery store checkout aisle without the aisles of basically junk foods with sugar, and so the holiday season is a tough time to stay away from those kinds of carbs. But you can do it. You take it one day at a time. You avoid those kinds of things. There are some things you can kind of tell yourself if you have to see those things, is that you've made so much progress, it's not worth it. There's this trade-off of health benefits that get thwarted by small things like candy bars and things that would be relatively small compared to someone who's always eating those things, but they're big for someone who's staying away from sugar and starch. So of course, avoidance of the carbs if you can, but I know it's very difficult to avoid the carbs. One strategy at the grocery store is, of course, staying to the outside perimeter of the grocery store, and so you don't go down the aisles that are all full of the carbs. You've probably already learned how to do that. So, as you're getting the food and preparing, you just avoid the carbs as best you can. The holiday, as it comes to eating with families, and actually like the holiday, you can, I wonder, how did you do over Thanksgiving? Think about, so I'll in the office say, how did Thanksgiving go? And I want to hear, oh, it was great. It wasn't tugged by carbs at all. Or if it was difficult, we'll go through, well, what was difficult about it? If you're still preparing food for a family and you feel like you have to prepare the foods that have carbs in there, well, you just limit the amount that you're having yourself. If you can prepare and plan ahead low carb substitutions, instead of the traditional high carb mashed potato, you have the mashed cauliflower. If you haven't honed down a mashed cauliflower recipe yet, try one out. The mashed or cauliflower rice is another substitution that is easy to make. You can chop up your own cauliflower into rice-sized pieces, or get them already chopped up at the store. So the meats on the holiday with other people are usually no problem, right? If you have turkey or ham or roast beef, something like that. If you're preparing for other people, you might want to prepare those traditional foods or find a substitution. If you're going to other people's homes, that becomes a little more kind of typical, that I'll hear, well, I had to try, grandma's thus and such, or my aunt's pie, or whatever. You can bring your own substitutions. That's a common thing to do. Bring some deviled eggs or some other non-sugary sort of dessert, if that's the thing that you're going to be kind of battling with there. One strategy is you just take whatever the food is, and if you want to be courteous about that, you don't want to offend anybody, you can just have a taste of whatever it is, or take a very small piece, and then it's over. No drama. You can actually, one strategy, and early on, the more years you have behind you, the easier it becomes, because you've developed some go-to ways of avoiding carbs or substituting. those kinds of things. But early on, you might even decide to give yourself a permission to have a holiday. But the hazard of that and the caution is just that the holiday might become a Hala week, or the Hala week may become a Hala month. And so if you do give yourself permission, you go to someone's house, or you have your family at your house, you're having carbs, you just get rid of the carbs as quick as you can, send them leftovers home with the people that came, and you get right back on the next day, strict to the plan. I've seen people do so well through the summer to the fall to the holiday season, and then they get off track, they start eating carbs, they get sucked back into this carbohydrate vortex, if you will, and then they come up, it's not even the New Year's, it's March before people end up in the office telling me the story of how they regained all of their weight that they had lost earlier in the year over that holiday period. So I don't want that to happen to you. One thing you can do is to check in with us every Wednesday night now. I'll be here talking to you. You can do it. You can go week to week if that's the best way to do it. So another strategy, if you are deciding to have some carbs, is to have just a taste. And just a taste means, the scientific view of carbs is not that they're all bad or they're all good, and there's no such thing as a keto food. It's a keto metabolism. And the way you get out of a keto metabolism is by having too many carbs. So it's a quantitatable, counting a number of carbs. So we know that a teaspoon of sugar is about 5 carbs, a teaspoon of sugar. So if you have a teaspoon of cake, candy, pie, ice cream, a forkful or a teaspoonful, it can't be more than 5 carbs. So one strategy is to have just a taste of the dessert, maybe one side that has carbs in it, and it's over. You had a taste, you satisfied everyone's desire for you to taste their food, and that's one strategy. Now, if you're dealing with saboteurs or people who are trying to, let's say you go into the holiday meal and you really decided, I don't want any. I'm going to go through, I'm feeling good, I've lost all this weight and my clothes are fitting great, or my diabetes is better, or I just have more energy and I don't want to have that coma, that sleepiness after having carbs or having too much to eat at a meal, then and someone's trying to get you to eat more, you just change the subject. Just but what, don't you want to have some? Well, I'm doing great. I'm full. And how is the family doing? How is ask changing the subject to something else. If the person who's keeping the idea of you having carbs alive in that conversation, and they don't, change and follow your suit to something else, that's making them be sort of annoying, right? So hold your ground. It's as if you may even have a problem with carbs like many alcoholics do, where you have to have strict avoidance, and it may snowball you, especially early on, if this is your first or second holiday, and if you can practice really total avoidance of the sugar, that's best. But I know it's not always practically possible to do that. So change the subject, bringing low carb substitutions. Other folks who, for example, don't do a keto diet might not know that something like hard-boiled eggs, deviled eggs, are something you have all the time. And so you bring that and they go, oh, wow, these are so great. Or it can be just some other sort of side. Brussels sprouts are fantastic. Most people like them. Asparagus, that sort of thing. I've been lately experimenting with different kind of pumpkin chaffle recipes. If you're not familiar with a chaffle, look it up, CHAFFLE, and just using different amounts of pumpkin pie spice with a little Splenda, or actually having real pumpkin in the chaffle. The type of chaffle I like to make, which keeps the carbs really low, is just the grated cheese and egg version. So no almond flour or baking powder is needed. It gives it a little fluffier texture, but it also adds more carbs to it. So you might try some chaffles for a side or a substitution for bread over the holidays. It's a great, easy thing to do. There are some PDF files going around with hundreds of chaffle recipes. And recently I asked, what's your favorite chaffle recipe? I've talked about it for a while in the office, in the clinic. And the top ones were cinnamon toast chaffle, and then the everything bagel seasoning chaffle with cream cheese. So if you're haven't had a chaffle yet, try it out. Recently, someone said to me, I don't know why I didn't try chaffles. It's been a year since I talked about it, and he finally tried it and he loved it. So yeah, I don't know. Better late than never. There are reasons why we don't try new things. I can't always understand that, but so these are just some ideas to get through the holidays, and of course checking in with folks. If you're in a Facebook group, if you're on Facebook and in a Facebook group, there are lots of ones that are available. It's kind of a free resource, and checking in and asking for support and cheerleading from other people can always be helpful as well. This time of year, again, carbs come out of the woodwork, and you just kind of got to avoid them as best you can, minimize them, and enjoy the holiday for things other than the food. Enjoy your company of family and friends in different ways. If you haven't learned the kind of approach that we use at Duke and Adapt Your Life, it's a really simple, real food version of low carb and keto, developed 150 years ago, starting in London, England. We don't ask people to have macro calculators or bulletproof coffee or apple cider vinegar or buy special products. You don't have to have any of those things. We teach an approach that's based on real foods and foods that you can buy at any store. It doesn't have to be, really special, high quality or attention to food quality. Being in Durham, North Carolina, many of my patients will eat at restaurants and fast food, and you can even eat a keto diet and lose weight just eating at fast food restaurants. That it might surprise you, but actually the keto and low carb, if you focus on the right thing, it's going to actually be very flexible, and you can do it in many, many different ways. Well, let me get to some questions here, and just again, hello everyone, and we'll get through this holidays, huh? If you've been away from carbs for a while, when you have some carbs, you may notice certain things, like you might get tired, sleepy. When I have carbs, I crave them, often for a few days or a week, and I wake up and go, why am I hungry? And I go, I had something over the weekend, and no, I'm not perfect. I have, our saying is progress, not perfection, and but I've really learned to reduce the amount of carbs that I eat, unquestionably, but I'm not perfect every day or every week, I'd say. So let's see. Cauliflower is substituted for bread when making stuffing. Great. Thanks, Karen. So Engelbert Humperdinck, thanks. I always like that name. He's not the real Engelbert Humperdinck. You've said that before, right? But are supplements necessary to stay on keto long term? No, I don't think so. And are there any medical tests to see if you have nutritional deficiencies? Well, the best research that I've seen that have examined whether a keto diet, when it's done with real food, remember there are ways to do keto that are distorted and not healthy. A lot of the internet keto teaching doesn't emphasize that real food and protein really comes first. That's what you need to know. I don't think that you'll get a nutritional deficiency. So there really is no medical test to see if you have a nutritional deficiency. So it's not nutritionally deficient. So, several papers written about that and the clinical experience of lots and lots of doctors now. Second Christmas for me in ketosis, fantastic. One of the things these young doctors are doing now is they're measuring their own glucose and measuring ketones and learning all sorts of things, including the individualization of foods. And I'm just learning from the visiting doctor actually about how, based on his and his wife's experience, they have modulated the food within their own household based on these monitor readings. Now, I don't recommend that generally, and but it's fascinating. And there are generalities, like the weatherman can predict things. I can tell you generalities, but these new techniques of measuring the blood glucose and measuring the ketones can actually individualize it for you, which is pretty exciting. And right now the tools are a little bit expensive, but I'm learning from the doctors who are visiting, which is fantastic. Let's see, I went into a home improvement store the other day and they offered hot chocolate chip cookies and hot chocolate and candy canes. How do you say no to that? Well, for me, it's easy. I would just walk right by. Or you might have just a little bit of the hot chocolate. I don't know. Or next time ask them to have a sugar-free version, perhaps. Just think about if the keto folks were kind of politely pushy and persistent, maybe there would be accommodation for keto people like there is for vegan people at the moment. I mean, it's almost disturbing to me how there's always some kind of vegan thing when very few people are doing a vegan diet, and it just seems it's not any healthier than anyway. So why not have a sugar-free version? Ask them that next time. So let's see, I'm an abstainer, not a moderator, right? You're going to learn about your own style. If you're unable to moderate, it's an addiction for you, then you want to stay away totally. I remember helping people quit smoking. I did that for 10 years before I helped people quit carbs. And the smokers who relapsed would tell me they wish they hadn't had that first puff. The first puff. It wasn't even the whole cigarette that made them kind of relapse. It was that first puff. So you want to be careful with just a taste, or I'll just have a little bit because it's at the store. Stay away from that stuff. You can make the protein sparing modified bread to make stuffing, or there's a chaffle stuffing substitution online, and all of these things are great substitutions to do. Let's see, Elizabeth says, I would think being a type 1 diabetic for 36 years now makes it easier to refuse foods, and I keep the mindset that it's really not worth the quick enjoyment of a sweet. Yeah, well, the smokers I treated said that they would always love to smoke, but they didn't because they knew the consequences would be terrible. It's similar to that way of thinking for me. If I get back into sweet things and get out of control, I even now, after 20 years of pretty much staying away from carbs, it's still an issue. So I think that's a general experience, unfortunately. Let's see, I'm of the keto with Casey. Yeah, go keto with Casey. Casey Durango is great. She hosts our monthly support group, We met in Durham for years, and now we do it on Comcast once a month. She's great, and she kind of just says it's not, food's not the boss of me. So Casey has a very direct, North Carolinian kind of approach. Carbohydrate vortex, trying so hard to get out. Yeah, well, that's the way you stop craving something is to stop having it. And so think of this. It was fascinating to learn, and I've learned from so many people going through this. There was an individual who was quitting smoking, and I was in the world of developing new treatments to help people quit smoking. I worked with the inventor of the nicotine patch here at Duke, and this fellow came back and said, "Doc, I know what fixes the cravings for cigarettes," and I was anticipating a new treatment. Maybe we could turn it into something that a lot of people could use, do more research on it. And he earnestly looked me in the eye and said, "When I smoke a cigarette, my craving goes away." And now that might sound kind of weird. It might sound kind of funny or bizarre or silly, but no, when you're in the midst of an addiction and you don't see that the addictive substance is an addictive substance, you're trapped. You can't get out, and you can't. So, with this gentleman, I kind of said, yeah, but the point of this is to get you not to smoke, right? So cravings will be relieved by having the substance that gives you the temporary relief of the craving, but you have to get out of that. And that's where our method is to cold turkey, you can have cold turkey the carbs all in one day. And for most people, the withdrawal is very, very short. It's not as bad as quitting smoking for most people. It's definitely not as bad as quitting heroin or cocaine or other substance. So you just get back on board, cut it out. You might choose a day like New Year's, start with some preparation and getting the carbs out of the house, that sort of thing. The next 3 weeks, I'm going to be going over a mini keto workshop to help with kind of planning and through the major things to think about. But you really have to get out of that vortex. Yeah, it'll suck you back in. Have you ever been to an Italian family Christmas? Pasta, bread, pastries? Sure. Yeah. And, that's not actually something you have to continue. It's fascinating. Every culture has had carbs in it. When someone will come and I politely listen to, well, my people, my ethnicity, no, everyone has had carbs in their history, every country, and whether you continue and perpetuate that is a choice. Kind of like if you're going to do it on that one day, join in, fine, give yourself permission, and then you get right back on the next day. But I guess I'm thinking of that movie, the Greek, might be Greek Wedding, I think it was, with all of the similar, the family and all this. Well, no one's going to know if you didn't eat the carbs. And if you have some momentum going into that holiday gathering where you're not hungry, then you hit the meat first and you just avoid. No one's really going to care that you don't eat that other stuff, I bet, if it's a big group like that. Celiac is a problem with gluten, and the program that we teach is gluten-free. A gluten-free diet is not necessarily low in carbs, and that confuses a lot of people. So a gluten-free diet might help the celiac, but it doesn't necessarily help you lose weight. A low-carb program like we have is gluten-free, and it helps you lose the weight because you start burning your own body fat. Okay. So let's see. Oh yeah, if you don't like the eggy taste, you can add some spices. Although yeah, I don't find that chaffle. Well, use less egg is one way, but I don't find that they taste eggy if I put some other kind of flavoring on it. Let's see. Shirley says after Thanksgiving, everyone left and took home all they wanted. Fantastic. A week later, I threw out half of coconut pie, half of pumpkin pie. That was the only way. Yeah, and that's a good way to do it. It's kind of like, you know, and things can change, right? I grew up with Halloween where we had mounds of candy, and I bartered with my brothers or what favorite candy and my friends, and kept it for weeks until it was all gone. Now, what most families do is they have the candy if they let them, and then they have it for a few days, and then they toss it all. So it's a time limited exposure, and it's a change from what I remember as a kid. Let's see, what kind of cheese? So with a chaffle, you can use really any kind of cheese. It comes out a little different depending on the cheese that you use. You can grate it yourself or have it store bought, or a lot of people will put the slices of cheese on there, or the grated cheese with pouring the egg on is kind of the simplest way that I've learned how to do it. Recently someone told me they tried the chaffle. Well, they didn't really. She only tried it once, and so there's a. It's fascinating when you teach food to people, not being a food teacher, but doctor means teacher, and I have watched a lot of people learn how to do things. And I'm kind of like this way too. I have to admit that if I don't get it right the first time, I bail out on the idea or the recipe. But a chaffle is so darn easy, even I can make it. So when this person said, well, I didn't really like the way it came out, I said, well, did you try it a little differently? Did you have a little less egg and more cheese, or did you have? And she said, admitted that no, I just didn't try. So hang in there with something, with a recipe that actually doesn't take much time. You'll know in a couple minutes if it came out right, if you liked it, and change it. You might tweak it a little bit here and there before you get it just right. So there some people who if you don't get perfection right away, they'll try not. They won't try it again, which is unfortunate. So not everyone gets things right the first time. The Food Network is great and it's terrible all at the same time. You see people who've done things for years, and or if they make a mistake, they edit it out. So if you're not used to making new things, just hang in there and try the chaffle or other new thing. Let's see. David says, I was so freaked out last year about my intake, but by afternoon the next day I was in full ketosis. I don't believe in macros, but I was way over 20 grams fat adapted. So that you can take a holiday and then get right back on the next day. If your metabolism is relatively flexible, you can get back into ketosis in a day or two. Some people, if you have diabetes or some serious metabolic issue, you've had weight problems all your life, it might take 2 weeks before you get back into ketosis. We found that in a study we did, but never published, that we gave people a meal full of carbs, and it took 2 weeks for them to get back into fat burning and into weight loss, which just reminds me that I'm very honest about, you need to be strict. You need to be strict every day. Even, if you have one of those metabolisms that's really tough, then, even a little bit of carbs every 2 weeks will make it not work or stall or get at a plateau. So that's, a point of doing this for a long time is that some people have to be super strict. Not everyone, but most people who come to my office who have a lot of weight to lose or have a metabolic problem like diabetes, prediabetes, hypertension. Let's see. Give the chaffles a try. Let's see. I eat chaffles just about every day, maybe with fresh duck eggs. Okay, yeah, I have just regular eggs. My chaffles always explode in the maker. Mine don't explode, but I do have a quick 1 minute chaffle video. It's called Easiest Chaffle Ever, just on YouTube, and you might check that out. The method that I used, I learned from the young couple Keto Connect, Matt and Mega, and there are a lot of, now you know the term chaffle, there are a million types of chaffles and how to do it, but mine don't blow up. I don't know why. Let's see, Christmas on a weekend. I just was talking to someone who, because Christmas was on the weekend, they don't get an extra day off. So even then, the city worker doesn't get a holiday, extra day off, sadly. Let's see, I hate cleaning that little chaffle maker. Well, right, you do have to clean it every now and then. I don't clean it every time, but I do. I know that's something to have to do. So I'm still struggling with acid reflux, Angie says, especially with salami, pickles, olives, beef, and coffee. Will this improve? Any idea why? I've heard of many people, yeah, it should go away, 99% of the time. I wonder if with reflux, I wonder what you put in your coffee. I've had a lot of people have trouble with putting oils in medium chain triglyceride or coconut oil, or if you're having bulletproof coffee, that can actually perpetuate the heartburn. So that's an idea that comes to mind. But you may have some sort of hiatal hernia or anatomic problem that just changing the food won't fix. So, but most of the time people have resolution of their heartburn. Absolutely. Let's see. Yeah, I watched the movie Fathead, the movie. It blew my mind. Yeah, it's a good one. The many, how should I say, the task of teaching people today is interesting because there are a lot of people who learn by documentary films, and if it's on Netflix, people have that, so that it's free. But if it's on YouTube and it costs $3, it's cost prohibitive for a lot of people. That's just the way it is. So I'll ask, are you on, what's your social media of choice? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? Is it YouTube? And the Fathead, the movie, is a great movie done by Tom and Shariva Naughton. I bring up these because today with a visiting doctor, a lot of the way, so he's in his late 20s, he likes watching these documentary films. So he's also likes to exercise. So we talked about serial killers, that's CEREAL, killers, and then Serial Killers 2. These are the stories of elite athletes who are doing a keto diet. It's just phenomenal movies. So if you're concerned or interested about exercising and keto diets, check out Serial Killers and Serial Killers 2, that's CEREAL. And then we brought up, talking about documentary films today, the study we did north of Vancouver in a First Nations group, the Namgis First Nations in Alert Bay, was made into a Canadian Broadcasting Company documentary film called My Big Fat Diet. So if you want to learn about how a program was implemented in the First Nations, which is a Native Canadian group, and it's really the story of Dr. Jay Wortman, who learned that he had diabetes. He was a doctor, and the trivia about it is that his wife told him he was doing the Atkins diet when he had cut the carbs out, and he said, well, no, I'm not. And she said yes, and he just never heard of the Atkins diet, because like most medically trained people like me and Dr. Wortman, we had never heard of the Atkins diet in our training. So anyway, My Big Fat Diet was another movie that came up. Then there's Fat, a documentary, and Fat Fiction, which are films that you can watch. That's another thing to do over the holidays is distract people with watching movies and not eating all the time. Let's see, prioritize protein, absolutely. I struggle with using nuts instead of carbs so I don't lose weight. Yeah, nuts can be a trigger food, which means it triggers your hunger, so it's hard to stop eating them. So when I start people off, one of the little secrets is I don't allow nuts. I recommend no nuts because about 50% of people can't stop eating the nuts. So this may be a little thing to change when you reboot and restart with the new year coming up. Where can I find, Alba asks, where can I find healthy whole foods based keto meal ideas and examples? Which resources should we look at? Well, it depends on what food you like to shop for, where you like to shop, how much time you want to spend cooking. Do you want to have things quick and easy or difficult and complicated? So I've learned that there's several important factors, beginning with where do you like to shop. Now, in terms of recommending resources, because I might aim at the wrong place. Like if I said, well, check out Christy Sullivan's cookbooks. Well, Christy has a certain style. She lives in North Carolina. I know her well, and she understands the food list that I teach people with. But she has fairly difficult recipes with substitutions of, and insists on using certain types of things. So, if you want to learn from someone who's done a lot of behind the scenes work to figure out that you want to use sucrin and not Splenda for this, or you want, so one thing you can do is check out the free items at the website of these people. So you could go to Cooking Keto with Christy's website and YouTube channel and check out her style of cooking. I think Christy is destined for the Food Network someday, because when I look at her videos, it's like watching the Food Network. And to my knowledge, there was someone who was very close, who was keto friendly, getting on the Food Network, but she didn't make it. And but anyway, so there's a style of cooking and teaching while you're cooking. That's Christy's style. So now, not only am I having to, before I give you the advice, I have to factor in where you shop, how much you want to spend, how much time you want to spend. Is the recipe something you want to watch someone now in the teaching, watch how to do it? She doesn't write down the ingredients for you, but she'll show you how to do it. So you have to kind of take notes or buy her cookbook that has the recipes in it. And some people come to me and they say, I can't afford the cookbook. So your question has a complicated answer. I'm still a advocate of the Linda's low carb website and recipes. Yes, it has the term low carb in it. It's been around for, I'd say, 20 years. I actually met Linda Janah at a low carb cruise dinner the day before the ship left. I think we were in Houston. I think so. Linda lives in Texas. But the style is different than watching a video. You get the recipe, and you get a picture, and you get the ingredients, and you get the total carb listing on there. So I like the Linda's low carb, because now if you like to learn from recipes with pictures and ingredients, so I need to know your style of learning before I can make a good recommendation for you. And then I learned really quickly that if you ask me, what food, is that food good, or is that site good, that I can just tell you that it's low in carbs. I'm not going to tell you that it tastes great, because our tastes can be different. So beware of you'll love this. Well, because I learned that if I said this is really great and someone went home and tried it and they didn't like it, they're not going to trust my recommendation again, because my palate is different than theirs. So it's a more complicated question than you probably thought. And you press a button on a professor, and I'll just keep talking. So I need to know a little more detail. In fact, a lot of the work I do is connecting people to resources based on these factors of cooking, which is very interesting. It's not something that doctors are generally taught, but we're teaching a new generation of doctors about that. Let's see. Can someone without a gallbladder be successful with keto? Absolutely, yes. Remember, you want to do keto in a real food way without adding oils and all this other stuff. That might stress the gallbladder a bit, or your ability to absorb food, the fats. Let's see. Does one have to have vegetables every day? I seem to crave fatty meats. Well, the approach I use is I recommend vegetables and leafy greens every day, but if someone, I don't enforce that recommendation as much as I will enforce you have to have some protein every day. I don't want you to have long-term total fasting, but so no, I don't think you have to have vegetables every day. Let's see. Some people early on, St. Mary of Victory's Catholic Church in St. Louis writes, it's poison to you, don't eat it. Yeah, some people have that early on, the mindset of sugar is poison, or you just want to stay away from it. But, it's not, right? I mean, so it's a bit of it's a tool, a cognitive tool to keep you away from the food at first, but eventually you realize that, no, it's not poison. You've been eating it all your life. And then when you do have a mistake, a slip, you fall off the plan, it's not cheating. Remember, I'm not going to send you to the principal's office because you had a carb. It's not cheating. That's bringing in this kind of moralistic right and wrong and all that. I try to get you out of that just as soon as possible. All it is carbs. When you raise the blood sugar, the insulin goes up. It stops the fat burning. That's all that's going on. But if you want to use that as a mindset at first, poison, don't eat it. That can be useful, no question. Wouldn't it be great if we could all have a CGM during the season to get the immediate response of food choices? Well, Tracy asked this question. So CGM is a continuous glucose monitor, and this doctor who is visiting has been using one for years with his wife as young physicians. So in fact, we were brainstorming that young medical, well, they're not always young, okay, new medical students should have a CGM for a continuous glucose monitor. And I point here because I was kind of, shamed into putting one on myself, because there's this doctor who's less than half my age who's showing me his blood glucose. And so I went out and bought one last night. And yes, you have to buy them yourself if you don't have diabetes, because don't expect insurance to pay for it unless you have diabetes. And even then, some insurances won't pay for it. But anyway, I bought one for $25. I have a CGM on right now. And today we're in the clinic seeing patients. And I looked at my CGM, my blood glucose reading. It takes it automatically with every 15 minutes and records it. And you just put your phone next to it, and the phone records the latest readings. And I showed him mine. It was 77. He showed me his. It was 80. And he said, "Oh, you win." So we had kind of a competitive, how low can you get your blood glucose? Now, so yeah, I think it can be useful to monitor, but I didn't. This is the first time I've worn a CGM. I've been in the keto world, in the science side of things for over 20 years, and because I don't want my personal experience to overly influence my teaching, but I can see this as an individual tool to figure out, to fine-tune things, or as a medical treatment to help people get off insulin and blood sugar treatments early on. These doctors out at Wake Forest, they're residents, but they've done a small clinical study where they're using that CGM, the continuous glucose monitor, to help people get off medication and to reduce the glucose levels. So yeah, if you get your doctor to write a prescription, it's like $25 for 14 days at a local pharmacy here. And I think that'll be in that ballpark. If you get the full month supply, you don't have an iPhone, you use their meter, it's $100 for that CGM in our local area. I didn't fine tune how to lower the cost of it. And other doctors may be able to help you figure out how to get insurance payment for it. Let's see, Dakshin Gal says eating off page 4 is just not worth it. So page 4 is the list of foods. That was the fourth page of the handout. That is the fourth page of the handout that I use at Duke. It turned into page 4 out on the internet, and now it's really the foundation of the Adapt Keto food list that we use, and you can actually get it. It's changed just a little bit, but basically the same as phase 1 in our book, End Your Carb Confusion, that came out now about a year ago. It's done very well. So if you like to read, the style of learning, if you like to read, try these books. If you like videos, go to these YouTube channels, check them out. And even Instagram, I'll link people to Instagram accounts from the country that someone is from. So I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about Indian keto, Indian recipes, but I have some contacts who've interviewed me on Instagram Live. And so I'll direct people to learn directly from the country where they're from, so that they'll have the food type and substitutions specific to that ethnic group. So that's another strategy I do for teaching, is connecting people to different areas of the world that have their own type of keto recipes. And then different celebrities, for example. I was made aware of the Disney TV. A lot of children grew up with That's So Raven TV show. It's Raven Simone is her name. She lives in LA. And when we were in San Diego for a meeting, I did a brief video for her just saying hi, and communicated a couple times. But she has a pretty massive following of people in their 20s and 30s. And now my children think that I'm really somebody, because I've communicated with the TV Disney star Raven Simone. It's kind of funny. So Raven, if you're watching, thank you for the influence that you're having with folks as well. It's one of my missions into the future, is to try to reach the younger generation and use this as a preventive tool. I've seen all of the therapeutic tools. I can correct all these different medical problems, but we don't want to have to do that. We want to prevent these from coming on. And so that's going to be a big task to get the folks in their 20s, 30s to not go down the same pathway. In fact, the prediction is that it's going to be worse. There's going to be more diabetes, more obesity, and you can kind of see that when you're at the schools, can't you? So anyway, I'm not an expert in childhood obesity or in that sort of prevention, but in the schools, but that's an area that really needs help, no question. So let's see. Yeah, so eating off page 4 is just not worth it. Well, that's kind of my simple approach, is I just stick to those foods, and I've found things that are satisfying, and try different kinds of dishes made with those foods. And then that will definitely keep you don't even have to count carbs if you stay to the food on this list. It's pretty amazing. Do you think carb addiction will be recognized as a real addiction? Well, there is a textbook now called Processed Food Addiction, and it really is, that's the name of carb addiction, really. That's a textbook. And I remember being asked to submit some information to a group in the UK who was trying to get it coded within a psychiatric framework. That's where it would be recognized. So the addictions have made it into the mainstream medical understanding, and then payment for it through the psychiatric DSM, Diagnostic Statistical Manuals. So yeah, maybe I think it might be regarded as a real addiction. I'm hopeful for that. So decaf coffee with heavy cream is my dessert. Fantastic. Yeah, I'll use those low carb yogurts for dessert. 5 carbs per little cup. Some of them have little pieces of fruit at the bottom, but the amount is really low. So is there a recipe for protein bread? Well, I think that protein sparing PSMF bread is a variation of the egg white bread that's called cloud bread. Used to be called the revolution rolls. And so that's Maria and Craig, Maria Emmerich, search that, and their website is Maria Mind Body Health. And you may find, again, check out the website, see if you like the style, to look at some of the free recipes. And they have a slew of cookbooks. I like these sources because they understand the low level of carbs that are needed for some people for it to work. And then they're using total carbs, not net carbs, when they're doing their recipes and getting the information, giving you the information. Let's see, I had some keto ice cream. Well, there's really not any keto ice cream, I'm sorry, even though it says keto on it. But a small amount of ice cream may be fine. Let's see, I'm a sugar addict. Went crazy the other day. Yeah, well, just get back on. Join us over the next Wednesdays, and you can see that you can get back on. Every day is a new day. Let's see. Should I complain to the hospital group whose diabetes educator gave me diet advice paperwork with the Novo Nordisk on it? That's the insulin maker. Not familiar with it. Yeah, Novo Nordisk makes insulin, and that was the brand on the diet advice. Well, I wonder, did it have some carbs in it? That's a joke. Of course it did. So I'm in the Caribbean. I swear we invented carbs. Yeah, well, we all have that struggle, don't we? So, and then of course there's the space oyster to keep me honest. Inuit, don't say Eskimos anymore. The Inuit had carbs in their culture doc. LOL. Okay, you caught me. We were joking today, the doctor, about we bring out the Maasai and the Inuit as cultures that never had carbs. So point well taken, because the carbs can't grow in the Arctic, basically. Let's see, where to find the cinnamon chaffle recipe without almond flour? I don't know. Test your own. Let's see, and I love chaffles. Hi from Montreal, fantastic. Any suggestions for migraines, cravings, no inches lost, no energy? Well, Susan, join us over the next 3 Wednesdays, and hopefully I can find some answer for you. I wouldn't have a job if people didn't have results. So that's, this is all I do at a clinic at Duke. And if my method didn't work for a subset of folks, right? And then for those who it doesn't work, if they come back to me, I figure out what's going on and we make it work. So there may be some minor tweaking, or maybe just kind of a reboot totally. So hang in there the next few weeks, okay? Let's see. Claire says, I've been told this way of eating is dangerous. Oh, sorry, danger. Well, it's not dangerous like being on the edge of a cliff. And in fact, it's really not dangerous at all unless you're on medication that can become too strong, in which case it's not the diet that's dangerous, it's the medicines. So remember, your medicines are titrated to the carbs. Once you reduce the carbs, you got to reduce the medicines, the diabetes ones most specifically. So no, this way of eating is not dangerous. If you do it right, protein comes first. Still a lot of old information about that, so it's not uncommon for me to hear that. Could dairy sensitivity slow down weight loss? I don't think so. I think it's the amount of carbs you're having. So stay tuned, and hopefully we can figure that out for you. And I relieved your worry that you're not the only one that didn't clean the chaffle maker every time. Yeah, no, I don't clean it every time. But I learn a lot from folks. I'm using that easiest chaffle ever YouTube video in my office, and I watch and people's response to it, because I want to know if it looks like it's good, or some people get up, I'll never do that. Why? Well, because it's so messy. Well, if relax, you can clean it. If you some people have kind of painted themselves into a corner such that they don't want to do any cooking or cleaning, and I have to. Well, okay, we'll work with that. You can get food delivered to your house. Well, that's too expensive. Well, then you just have eggs, and well, that's too boring. Well, so it's okay. We'll find some kind of answer. Let's see. I just read everyone should have a little sauerkraut every day. Yeah, well, it's low in carbs. It could be part of your daily allotment. I'm not convinced. I haven't seen a paper where these people got sauerkraut, these people didn't, and there were certain health benefits. I would like to see that paper. You'll get a lot of kind of information from people who want you to buy their products, or want you to think that a certain tweak will be especially healthful. And I think that can overcomplicate things. Let's see. Do you find medication? So we'll talk about that over the next few weeks. I'm getting at the hour here. You're very welcome. So I was mentioning cooking keto with Christy Sullivan. And then Maria Emmerich is Maria Mind Body Health. They're good resources. Let's see, I've heard skin tags disappear. Yeah, they can, but not on everyone. And $25, that's it. Well, that was in Durham, North Carolina. That's for a 14-day sensor. So it wouldn't. So this is the CGM cost. If you have an iPhone, you don't need the meter. So I have an iPhone. The sensor itself cost me $25 for a 14-day one. Yeah. I wear one also. Wow. Okay. It's fun to play around. Well, hopefully you're benefiting your health as well. And I'm part of a research project with the CGM. Very interesting. A lot of docs are unwilling to write. Yeah, I know. So a lot of doctors follow guidelines. Hello from France. So please chime in with French cuisine ideas from every now and then. I spent 3 months in Tours when I was in college and learned not to fear fat. I think looking back, that was like part of my life experience, that most traditional French cuisine does not fear fat, any kind of fat. Great. And I'm just down to great. Excellent. Yeah, and the links to Maria Emmerich's site is on there. And I hope, the holidays, before you know it, they came. Before you know it, they will be gone. And the grocery store aisles will be back to where they don't have. No, okay, there'll always be candy there, and things that you just learn to don't even see anymore. And I wish you a safe and wonderful holiday season. Hopefully you can get together with family and friends. And I'll see you next week over the next few Wednesday nights and help you through this holiday season, leading to a kickoff of a course, if you need it, in the first week of January. So until next week, have a great week.